Everyone backed away, but he stepped closer. The street was crowded, but no one moved. People stood still, staring at the creature lying on the cold metal ground. She was small, thin, and shaking. Her skin was dark purple, covered in thick mud and trash. Her clothes were torn and dirty. Her black hair was stuck to her face. She looked like something lost, forgotten, like something no one wanted to touch. "Is it even alive?" someone whispered. "Disgusting thing, must be diseased," another said, stepping back. "Someone call waste control." "That's not our problem," a woman muttered, pulling her child away. No one helped her. Not one hand was offered. Not one person came near. Everyone just watched from a distance, afraid, disgusted, curious. But then, someone stepped forward. His boots were old and dusty. His jacket was patched. His name was Jace. He was a human, a mechanic from the lower zones. And unlike everyone else, he didn't look away. He looked right at her. The alien girl raised her head slowly. Her eyes were wide, glowing softly in the evening light. Fear filled them. She expected pain. She expected to be kicked, shouted at, dragged away. Instead, Jace knelt beside her. "Hey," he said gently. "Can you understand me?" She didn't answer. She trembled and looked at the crowd behind him. They stared like he was crazy. "She's dangerous," someone yelled. "You'll get sick," another warned. "She's not even human." But Jace ignored them. He reached into his bag and pulled out a small bottle of water. Carefully, he opened it and held it out to her. "Here," he said, voice low and kind. "Drink." The girl stared. She didn't move. Jace took a small sip himself, then held it out again. "See? Safe." Her hands moved slowly. Thin, shaking fingers took the bottle. She drank. Her lips cracked. Her throat made a painful sound. But she drank. The crowd still watched, whispering. A few recorded with their comm devices. "Freak show," someone said. Jace turned his head, then stopped watching. He took off his jacket and placed it over her shoulders. The alien girl flinched at first, expecting something bad. But the jacket was warm. It smelled like oil and machines. It felt safe. "What's your name?" Jace asked. She didn't answer. "Don't worry. You don't have to talk. Let's get you out of here." Jace stood up and lifted her carefully in his arms. She was light. Too light. Like someone who hadn't eaten in days. Her head fell against his chest. Her eyes slowly closed. People gasped. "You're taking that thing home? Have you lost your mind, Jace?" "She's trash." But Jace just walked away. He didn't care what they said. He didn't care how dirty she was. He didn't care that she was alien. All he saw was someone hurt. Someone scared. Someone no one helped. He carried her through the winding lower zone streets back to his small workshop. It wasn't much. Just a garage with a tiny room upstairs. But it was warm. It was clean. And it was safe. He placed her gently on the small couch, then walked to the back room. He brought out a blanket and wrapped it around her. Her breathing was soft now. She looked peaceful. He looked at her again. She wasn't ugly. Under all the dirt and filth, she looked young. Maybe 15, maybe 20. It was hard to tell with alien features. But her face, under all that fear and grime, was gentle. Jace sighed. "What happened to you?" The girl stirred. She opened her eyes for a moment. Then, very quietly, she whispered one word. "Help." Jace froze. It was the softest voice he had ever heard. He nodded. "I will." And for the first time in her life, and someone meant it, he didn't see dirt, he saw someone broken. The small room was quiet. The only sound was the soft hum of the heater and the slow breathing of the alien girl under the blanket. Jace sat nearby, sipping lukewarm tea from a metal cup. He hadn't slept. His eyes stayed on the girl. She was no longer shaking, but her Skin was still pale, her arms too thin, her lips cracked. Whoever she was, life had been cruel. Most people saw a dirty, weak creature. But Jace saw something else. He saw someone alone, someone who had not been touched with kindness in a very long time. He stood up quietly and walked to the small bathroom beside the workshop. It wasn't much. The tiles were chipped. The water pressure wasn't great, but it was warm and it worked. He turned on the heater and watched the steam rise. Then he walked back. The alien girl opened her eyes slightly as he entered the room. She tensed, ready to run or fight, but Jace only smiled gently. "You don't have to be scared," he said. "I just want to help." He pointed to the door behind him. "There's a shower. It's warm. No one will hurt you." "Not here." She blinked. Her lips moved, but no sound came. Then, slowly, she tried to sit up. She winced. Her body ached. But Jace didn't reach to touch her. He waited, letting her decide. She stood, wrapped in the blanket like armor. Her feet were bare and trembling on the floor. He didn't rush her, he just opened the bathroom door and stepped aside. "I'll wait out here," he said softly. "Take your time." The girl stared at him for a long moment. She still didn't speak, but she stepped inside. The door closed behind her. Jace sat down on the floor outside, back against the wall. He let out a breath. Inside the bathroom, the water ran. And as it ran, something happened. Dirt slid off her skin like dark paint. Mud swirled down the drain. Layers of pain and fear seemed to melt away under the stream of warm water. She stared at her reflection in the cracked mirror. The creature she saw in the market. That wasn't her. Now, her true skin showed, deep violet and smooth. Her black hair now hung like soft silk. Her eyes, bright and glowing, no longer looked like something wild. They looked like someone trying to remember who she really was. She didn't recognize herself, but she felt clean. For the first time in years, she touched her own face, unsure it was real. Then she cried. But it wasn't from fear this time. It was from the feeling she thought she'd never feel again. Hope. Outside, Jace heard the shower stop. He stood and knocked gently. "I left clean clothes outside the door. They might be too big, but they're soft." No answer. But after a few minutes, the door creaked open. She stepped out slowly, barefoot, wearing his old sweatshirt and sweatpants. The clothes hung loose on her, but she looked human, at least a little. Jace's eyes widened slightly, but not in judgment, not in fear, just surprise. She was beautiful, not because of her skin or her glowing eyes, but because she looked alive now. She looked like someone who had been buried and just crawled back to life. He didn't say anything, just handed her a small bowl of warm soup. She took it with both hands, holding it like a treasure. He sat down across from her, still no words, but her eyes met his, not with fear, but with something new. Trust. Beneath the dirt was a hidden beauty. The rain tapped gently on the workshop windows. Inside, the air smelled like warm soup and engine oil. Jace sat at his workbench, pretending to fix a circuit, but his eyes kept drifting back to the girl. She sat on the edge of the couch, hands wrapped around the empty soup bowl. Her wet hair had dried, falling softly down her back. The oversized hoodie made her look even smaller. She hadn't said a single word since the shower, but something had changed. She wasn't shaking anymore. Her eyes, once filled with fear, now studied the small space around her. The tools, the blinking lights, the broken robot in the corner. She didn't seem scared, just unsure, like someone learning how to breathe in a new world. Jace cleared his throat. "You want more soup?" She looked up quickly, startled, but then slowly shook her head. Silence again. Jace stood and stretched. "All right, I'll be in the garage if you need anything." As he turned to leave, he heard something, soft, almost too quiet to notice. "Why?" He stopped. "What?" She stared at the bowl in her hands. Her voice was low and rough, like it hadn't been used in years. "Why did you help me?" Jace stepped closer, surprised she finally spoke. He sat on the ground, not too close, because no one else did. She looked at him, eyes glowing softly in the dim light. "I'm not like you." "I know," he said. "I'm not clean, not safe." Jace shook his head gently. "You were alone, cold, hungry. That's all I saw." The girl's hands trembled slightly. "Most would have left me to die." Jace leaned back and smiled faintly. "Maybe, but I'm not most." She looked at him for a long time. Then quietly, she asked, "What's your name?" "Jace. Mine is Ayari." It was the first time she had said it aloud in a long time. Jace nodded. "Nice to meet you, Ayari." Her lips twitched, almost a smile. Almost. That night, as Ayari slept on the couch wrapped in blankets, Jace worked quietly in the garage, but something bothered him. He kept replaying the scene in the market, the way people stared at her, the way they whispered, the way even the guards didn't want to touch her. She had been treated like she was cursed. But tonight, under the light of the small lamp, her skin looked almost like velvet. Her hair shimmered. Her features were strange, yes, but delicate, like carved crystal. There was something about her, something he couldn't explain. He opened his old datapad and searched through alien species records. He typed in Ayari. Nothing. He tried skin tone, eye color, language. Still, nothing exact. There were similar results. Some noble-blooded species, some with high-level psionics, but no match. Then something caught his eye. An ancient record. A forgotten empire. A symbol. It looked almost like the one carved faintly into the back of Ayari's neck. His heart beat faster. Ayari wasn't just any alien. She might be someone very important or very dangerous. Downstairs, Ayari stirred in her sleep. In her dreams, she saw fire. She saw chains. She saw running through rain and darkness. And she saw faces. Cold, cruel, powerful. Her voice trembled in her sleep. "Please, don't take me back." Jace, now wide awake, stood at the doorway and listened. His face grew serious. He didn't know who Ayari really was. But he was starting to understand one thing. Someone had hurt her, and someone might come looking. Whispers in the dark. She wasn't just a girl. The lights flickered once in the garage. Then again. Jace frowned and tapped the old generator. "Not now," he muttered. Outside, the night was thick with fog. Shadows moved across the windows. Just the wind, maybe. But something felt wrong. Inside, Ayari lay on the couch, curled tight under the blanket. But she wasn't sleeping. Her glowing eyes were wide open, staring at the ceiling. She had heard it again. A voice. Not from the room. Not from Jace, from her mind. "Return. You were never meant to escape." Ayari held her head, trying to block it out. She didn't want to remember. She didn't want to feel those cold metal walls again. The screaming, the experiments, the hands pulling her by the hair. She wasn't just a runaway, she was an escapee. From something dark. From something powerful. Upstairs, Jace sat at his desk, staring at the old datapad. His hands moved slowly, tracing a faded symbol. 3 silver stars in a circle. He had seen it before, on Ayari's neck. He searched deeper. The mark belonged to the Vorest Dominion, a brutal alien empire known for one thing: creating living weapons. And Ayari matched one of the old files. She wasn't a citizen, she wasn't a soldier, she was a project. Subject A7R1. Age unknown. Species unknown. Created. Enhanced. Then lost. Jace sat back, stunned. "Ayari," he whispered. "What did they do to you?" Downstairs, Ayari sat up quickly. Her hands trembled. She looked at her. Fingers. Small. Thin. But she remembered what they had once done. The power she was forced to use. She had tried to bury it. But now, it was waking up again. She heard something outside. A strange clicking noise. Not human. Jace heard it too. He grabbed a wrench and ran down the steps. Ayari? She was standing now. Her glowing eyes locked on the door. They found me, she said, her voice cold. Jace stared at her. Who? Before she could answer, bang. Bang, bang. Someone or something knocked on the metal door. Jace stepped in front of her. Stay behind me. Ayari shook her head. No, you don't understand. You can't protect me from them. Jace looked into her glowing eyes. You're wrong, he said. I'm not letting anyone take you. The banging grew louder. Then a voice came from outside, deep, mechanical, and emotionless. Subject A7R1. You are property of the Dominion. Return now, or your host will be erased. Ayari's face went pale. Jace clenched his fists. They're not getting you, he said. Not while I'm breathing. But inside Ayari's chest something stirred. A light, a pulse. Her memories flashed of training, of pain, of power she didn't understand. Back then she was forced to obey. But now, she was free. The fear in her eyes changed. To fire. She took a deep breath. If they want me back, her hands began to glow. They'll have to survive me first. They came knocking, not for him, but her. The metal door rattled again. This time it wasn't a knock, it was a command. The bolt shook, the hinges groaned. A faint hiss of gas slipped through a vent at the top. Jace grabbed his tool bag and pulled out a plasma cutter, not made for fighting, but better than nothing. He looked at Ayari. Her hands still glowed, but her body was trembling. They tracked you here, he said, voice low. Ayari nodded, her eyes locked on the door. They don't stop. They never stop. Who are they? She swallowed hard. Hunters. Not alive, not dead. Machines with voices, but no hearts. Built only to retrieve me. Jace glanced at the blinking lights of his security panel. They're trying to break in without damaging the building. That means they want you alive. Ayari looked down. No. They want control. Outside, 3 tall figures stood in the fog. Black metal armor, long, sharp arms, faces covered with smooth silver masks. They didn't speak. They didn't blink. They scanned every crack, every wall. Retrieval code active. Target is inside. Begin phase 2. One of them raised a hand, and the door began to melt from the center, cut by a thin red beam. Inside, Jace whispered, We've got maybe 60 seconds. Ayari's voice was shaking. I'll go. If I go, maybe they won't hurt you. Jace turned to her sharply. No, don't ever think like that. But I'm not worth... You are, he interrupted. You're not property. You're not a weapon. And you're not alone anymore. Ayari blinked. She had never heard anyone say those words before. The door gave a loud pop. The center hole widened. A hand reached through. Jace raised his cutter, but Ayari stepped forward. Her voice was calm now. Don't touch him. The hunter paused. Ayari's skin began to glow from within, soft at first, then brighter. Her eyes flared like twin suns. Small stones near her feet vibrated. The air grew heavy. Jace stepped back, eyes wide. What are you? Ayari didn't answer. She raised her hand, and the light surged. The hunter's metal arm froze mid-motion. Sparks burst from its joints. Its voice crackled. System, disturbance, error. And then, with a sound like breaking glass, the machine shattered into pieces. Silence. The other 2 hunters stepped back. Ayari's knees gave out. She fell, but Jace caught her just in time. Her voice was weak. I didn't mean to use it, it just came out. Jace held her steady. Whatever that was, it saved us. She shook her head. No, that was just one. The others won't stop. They'll send more. Stronger ones. Suddenly Jace had an idea. He tapped the workshop console and began to type fast. Then we don't wait, he said. We leave. Ayari looked confused. Where would we go? Anywhere but here. I've got a cargo truck out back. Old, rusty, but it runs. You in? Ayari hesitated. She had been running all her life. But this time, she wasn't running alone. She nodded. Jace smiled. Let's make them chase us for once. Outside, the remaining 2 hunters watched as the garage lights blinked off. Their target was on the move, but what they didn't know was that the girl they once called a failed experiment had just become something they couldn't control. She told him everything, then tried to leave. The cargo truck rumbled through the night, its old engine coughing like an old man in the cold. Jace's hands gripped the steering wheel tightly. His eyes flicked between the empty road and the rear view mirror. Ayari sat quietly in the passenger seat, her knees pulled to her chest, wrapped in Jace's jacket again. She stared out the window, but her mind was somewhere far, far away. Neither of them spoke, until the city lights vanished behind them. Then softly, Ayari whispered, "You should have let them take me." Jace glanced at her. "Don't say that. I'm not like you," she said. "I wasn't born. I was made. Designed in a lab, grown in a tank. I don't have a family. I was created by the Dominion to obey." Her voice broke. "And when I started thinking for myself, they called me broken." Jace didn't respond right away. She continued. "They hurt others through me. They used me to destroy things I didn't understand. I didn't want to, but I couldn't stop it. They had control." She closed her eyes. "I ran away the first chance I got. I hid on garbage ships, slept in sewer tunnels. Everyone who helped me got punished. Or worse." Jace finally pulled the truck over on a quiet, empty road. He turned off the engine and looked at her. "Ayari," he said slowly, "you are not a mistake." She looked at him with wide, confused eyes. "You're someone who escaped something awful and still chose to protect instead of destroy. That's not broken. That's brave." Tears welled up in her glowing eyes. "No one's ever said that to me." Jace gave a small smile. "Well, maybe it's time someone did." That night, they parked near a hidden repair station in the cliffs. Jace had a friend there, an old mining robot named Griv who owed him a few favors. While Jace checked the truck's damage, Ayari sat under the stars, alone on a rocky ledge. The wind blew gently through her hair. For the first time in years, she could breathe without fear, but something inside her still whispered, "Run." She looked back at the truck where Jace was talking to Griv. He was laughing softly, as if none of this danger mattered, as if she was just a person. Ayari stood slowly. She walked away, leaving only Jace's jacket on the rock. Minutes later, Jace returned with 2 hot drinks. "Ayari?" he called. Silence. His eyes scanned the area. Then he saw the jacket. His heart sank. "No." He ran across the cliff path. Her footsteps were still fresh in the dirt. She was gone. Ayari walked fast through the trees below, her glowing eyes filled with tears. She thought, if I leave now, he'll be safe. They'll follow me, not him. But then she heard it, fast footsteps behind her. "Ayari!" Jace's voice. She turned, shocked. He was out of breath, mud on his boots, worry on his face. "Why?" he asked. "Why would you leave?" Her voice cracked. "Because they won't stop. They'll hurt you. They'll burn everything just to take me back." Jace stepped forward. "I don't care." Ayari looked up. "But I do." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "You're the first person who saw me. The first who didn't treat me like a thing. And I won't let them take that from me." Jace looked at her for a long moment, then he gently took her hand. "Then don't run alone anymore." Ayari's fingers tightened around his. She nodded, and in that moment, the girl who had been called a failed experiment felt something no lab could ever create. She felt human. The sky was red at dawn. A storm was coming, but this time Ayari wasn't running. She stood on the cliff's edge beside Jace, the wind blowing her black hair behind her like a cape. Below them, the old mining station buzzed with tension. Griv had reinforced the walls, placed hidden charges, and sealed the lower gates. They were ready, or as ready as two people and a robot could be. Ayari looked at her hands. They no longer shook. Her fingers no longer felt weak. The strange glow inside her now hummed softly. Calm. Steady. Jace stepped beside her and placed a small device in her hand, a comm signal blocker. If we're lucky, they won't be able to call for backup. She gave a small smile. We're not lucky. He laughed. No, but we're stubborn. Then the sky cracked. 3 black ships appeared in the clouds, gliding like vultures. As they landed, the wind roared, and a deep, cold voice echoed through every speaker. Subject A7R1. This is your final warning. Surrender or burn. Ayari stepped forward. No more warnings, she whispered. No more fear. The ground trembled as the hunters marched out of the ships. Dozens of them now, taller, stronger, sharper. Griv aimed his old cannon. This is bad. Really bad. Jace looked at Ayari. You sure about this? Ayari nodded. I was made to destroy, she said softly, but today, I choose to protect. She walked down toward the field, alone. The hunters raised their weapons. Ayari raised her eyes, and the storm broke loose. Light exploded from her chest, pulsing out like a heartbeat. The earth cracked beneath her. The air grew heavy, thick with energy. The first row of hunters opened fire, but the blasts stopped mid-air, frozen in place. Ayari whispered a word in her ancient language, and every bolt of light turned backward. The hunters were hit by their own fire. Screams and sparks filled the air. Jace watched, stunned, as Ayari walked forward through it all, unharmed, eyes glowing like twin suns, her feet never even touching the ground now. One by one, the machines fell. One by one, the Empire's grip cracked, and then silence. Smoke rose from the battlefield. Ayari stood alone among the wreckage, breathing heavy. Her glow dimmed. Behind her, Jace ran down the hill. She turned, falling into his arms. I didn't want to be this, she whispered, voice breaking. I just wanted to be free. Jace held her close. You are. Weeks later, word had spread. Across colonies and outer planets, the Empire lost one of their weapons, and she chose kindness over power. They told stories of a girl no one wanted to touch, a girl people called dirty, but she became something else entirely, a protector. Survivor, a symbol, and at her side was a mechanic, a simple human, who didn't see her as a thing to fear, but as someone worth saving.